What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Brutal Planet Comics. I'm your host, Trey the Brute Daniels. What a glorious day it is, because another episode of the Indie Corner, where I sit down with everybody from the MPS community, writers, artists, directors, producers. Doesn't matter if you're in the game, I want to talk to you. And today we got a brand new guest on the show. He is the creator of End of Zed. Can't wait to talk to him. Give it up, everybody, for Eddie Lema.
Dre, I don't think I'm gonna have a better introduction than that. So. Much appreciated. Much appreciated. Dre. Really, thank you for letting me be on your show.
Oh, you flatter me. You flatter me. What is going on, my friend? I'm glad to have you on the show today.
Well, yes, listen, we're brethren, me. I don't know if you know that, but I'm part of the Anyone world. And so that's why I wore my Rust shirt today to kind of represent here, you know. And pretty soon I'll have my Treble shirt to wear so make sure everyone's, you know, to represent the crew. You know?
Oh, yeah, I got to start printing some more of those. But that's fantastic. And I'm so glad that you're part of the Anyone world and part of the great expanding family that it's becoming. It's great to have you on for the first time and to talk about some of the tremendous work that you got cooking up that I can't wait to talk to everybody about. But first and foremost, let's get to know you a little bit, Eddie. Who are you? Where'd you come from? How did we get here?
All right, so my name is Eddie Lema. I'm from the New York area. I love New York. New York's a big part of who I am. My day gig is dealing with kind of graphic design, art direction. And this is kind of like my second gig, you know, which is my passion, you know. Makes sense. Passion's always been graffiti art. As you can see behind me, you know, a graffiti artist, not a graffiti writer. There's a difference, you know. A writer writes on trains and walls, and I'm not bold enough for that, so I have to keep it to the artboard, you know. Okay. But I certainly took a lot from the aesthetic, and I love the graffiti sensibility. And a lot of my heroes are these graffiti writers, and particularly those that came up in the '80s. So a lot of became a lot of my identity: graffiti, hip hop fashion, and all of that, you know. Sweet. So I was sitting on the story for a long time, and this story, End of Zed, it's kind of like my homage to that period of time, you know, a time where a lot of things were going on, both positive and negative. So,
I like it.
So that's the origin.
I love the blend. So when you were born and raised in New York?
Yes. Yep.
So did you take graphic design in college or anything like that?
Yes, in school. It was always part of my identity. It was always something that I did well. And so people always knew that, you know, as the artist, you know, Eddie became the artist. And, you know, I knew that through time that I would love to do it as a living. And I did. Went to school and studied it and landed, you know, actually I owned my own business for a couple of years. Nice. And then, transitioned to another job that requires art design. So, but always in the background, though, you know, you got to keep, you know, that's your day gig, but you always got to keep something that fulfills you, you know, and that was always doing graffiti art. So, 1 year, what I did was I'd like to create different projects for myself on a yearly basis. What I do is the beginning of the year comes and I'll create something that I've never done before and then take it through the whole year where I dedicate my year to that. And I normally will have a metric at the end of that. So 1 year I said, you know, I'm going to take all my graffiti work and make it all digital. And I'm going to create an Instagram site because I've never had really an internet presence. So I opened up a Instagram site called ZNK238 because that was my tag name. And in January, I started taking all my images and slowly, and the metric at the end was, I knew I'd make it if I get 1,000 organic followers. You know, that was always my goal.
Good.
And through the year, but what an amazing experience. Not only transferring my art into the digital realm, but meeting all these amazing people along the way. And December comes and I did it. 1,000 followers.
That's tremendous. That's tremendous.
It's
always great to set those goals and to actually see them come through. Ain't that amazing? Ain't that a wonderful feeling?
Absolutely, Dre. And I tell you, I would really recommend everyone to do that, to take a project or something that's just yours. I know everyday life, kids and family, it's something that you can dedicate to yourself, you know, in a selfish way to a certain degree, but in a way that, you know, that you can kind of take care of yourself, you know? Yeah. And so that's what I did. That's how kind of like the germ of the story started. So within that, there was always a robot character that I always draw up my tags. And in that Instagram, I created like a little mini comic book. It was like 5 pages. And people really responded well. He was called Zed238. And people really responded well. So the end of the year happens, and then now I got a beginning of a new year. So what am I going to do? I said, well, I think I'm going to create a story about this character because he really resonates with me, you know? And so I said, let me write a screenplay. I love movies. So I'll take the whole year to school myself on the screenplay process, not only look up online what I could do, but also read a lot of books. One of my favorite books is a book called Save the Cat, which
Okay.
really talks about the 3-act structure. It talks about character arcs and all that. And that's where the idea of Zed came about, the end of
Wow.
Zed. And it
Wow.
was what a process, a full script. And the end goal, to have a script in my hand at the end of December. And there it was, And so I shared with some colleagues, some friends. They loved it. So beginning of this year, what's Eddie's new project going to be? Well, I said this would really lend well to a comic book. I have a lot of graphic design experience. I'm an artist myself, but I'm going to need to do this the real way. So I hired, a sequential artist.
Sequential.
Sequential
Ooh.
artist. Yes, I needed someone that just didn't draw still things. It needed to move, and it needed to have impact. So I hired some artists. I vetted a couple of artists, a colorist as well as a main artist, and I needed someone to work with me because with my artwork, I'm very kind of a selfish person when it comes to projects. It's very hard for me to get away from it, especially something that you worked on for the last couple of years.
Yep.
But thankfully for me, I found two Brazilian artists, one called Lucas Assis, he's from Brazil, and my colorist, I call him G. And he's G Sabino. And they're the artists that came through from Brazil. So that's
Wow.
the origin of where we are now.
Wow. Wow. And the worst part of it all, Eddie, you stole all my good questions off the jump. All my good questions.
Sorry.
No, it's perfect. It's perfect because we can segue right into end of Zed issue 1. And I'm just looking at the cover here. I love the design of this character. It feels retro to me. It reminds me of, I don't know if you ever were into gaming back in the day, but there used to be a game called Bomberman.
Yes.
Way back like 90s and stuff.
Of course.
And it just kind of gave me that type of feel. It gave me the retro Gigapet Tamagotchi-esque feel to it.
Oh, I love it.
I know we're dating ourselves right now, but all the same, it gave me that kind of feel. And the fact that you're coming in with the background of New York art style, which always kind of, for me, was always more gritty and a little bit more what's the word I'm looking for? Gothic. That's it.
Sure.
Gritty and gothic, and but it has a playfulness to it, and that's the joint that kind of gets me big time intrigued. So like I know you had this design for this character, and we'll jump to your site in a hot second. Before we do, I have to know, where did you get the idea for the design of this character?
Boy, I'm so glad you mentioned that, Drake, because really it took 4 months to come up with that character design because, I can't give away too much of the story, but
sure.
the story, he could not have, in the story, he's not a modern technological wonder. He's not coming out looking like, Voltron or anything.
Yeah.
He's got to be plain because a lot about his origins of being here is kind of old. He comes from things in the past here on Earth. So we had to be very careful in terms of the character design. So it took a long time.
Yeah.
And another thing too, if you notice, I read a lot of things on character design, good character designs. And one of the things that they mentioned, which I thought was really helpful, is that if you think of any character, cartoon character, superhero character, if you can view them in a silhouette, that is such an impactful thing. So if you think of like Marge Simpson in a silhouette, right?
Absolutely.
You would know it's Marge Simpson. If you look at Bart Simpson, look at Batman, right? You could just tell from the silhouette because there's something aesthetically about that shows that it works. So in Zed's case, he needed to have a big head.
Yeah.
He needed to have a small body. And the reason being is because I wanted to really tug at the emotion because he lands here, he's alone, he's lost, and I wanted to tug at the emotion of being a little kid that is lost. So all of that is calculated. From the size of his feet later on, you'll see, to his hands, everything really took a long time to kind of figure out, but it was certainly worth it because especially as you go into the story, it's all going to come into play.
That's tremendous. So speaking of which, let's jump over to your site, break down a few things that's going on there for me. So checking out the site here, End of Zed. First of all, your layout is top tier, and I need to steal this immediately and create one of my own. Absolutely. Now, I know you have your Kickstarter coming up. I believe that's October 23rd.
Yes.
That's coming up. We still got a few days away from that.
Yes.
But your site, the layout is really, really Cool. And I was just looking at the synopsis for the story. And just like as you were just talking about, and literally I said the exact same words here.
Right.
Zed, a battered robot with no memory, crash lands in the gritty streets of 1980s New York City.
Sure.
So this was really, really cool. And I know that it's a lot of your origins are in this. And as all of us as writers, we always write what you know. you write what you
Absolutely.
know. So, but one thing I have to ask, the paneling looks amazing. I know you shouted out your great artists
Sure.
before, but here's my question here. Like through the scripting of this, did you do the stage directions? Because I know
Yes.
you're mentioning.
Correct.
Okay, you're mentioning you were trying to write as a stage play because I do the
Yep.
exact same thing.
Correct.
I write
Correct.
my stories the exact same way as a stage
And,
play.
yep.
So did you
Yep.
do the stage directions for each of the panels?
Absolutely. Every panel I sketched, and it certainly wasn't to what his caliber of what Lucas did. But yeah, everything was sketched and everything was had the reference in terms of angles and everything. I really envisioned this. Everything you see in every panel is exactly the way I envisioned in terms of what the shot would look like. And of course, you're limited, right? You're limited with a comic,
Of
which is
course,
both good and bad.
of course.
But yeah, and he really translated it well. It took us a while to get used to it, though, Dre. I gotta say, it took
Oh,
us a while because he wasn't used to working that way. He was used to working with the script, and that's basically it.
yeah.
Or sometimes he would have like stick figures. He would
Oh,
tell me, but I really needed to. I really needed to feel comfortable with the angle and the perspective that he was taking it.
exactly. And I sympathize with that 110%. When me and my artist Federico, when we started working on Trouble, my God, so many years ago now, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
He once again, he understood how stage directions works, but he didn't realize that I was a crazy person. So it was like, hey, like, so I'm writing my
Yeah.
panels like except I just changed my stage directions into camera positioning. That's the
Oh,
only thing I
okay.
changed it into,
Okay.
so that it will be easier to follow per panel. So if you were writing a stage play, it will be like character enters stage
Right.
left, blah blah blah
Right.
blah blah, so
Right.
on and so forth.
Sure.
In my case, I put front view subjective shot
Mm,
of character's face. The
okay.
faces, blah blah blah. So it still I still was able to translate from the stage to the page. So
Okay.
it helped me a great bit. But it looks like the execution here was wonderful. I think the stage
Appreciate
directions
it.
clearly were given really well, and the colors are popping like
Yes.
firecrackers.
Yeah, that is G Sabino, man. It was super important because I tell you, Dre, this whole story takes place, all three episodes are going to take place in one night. And so everything had to be night, except for the crescendo of the end, which will be like, uh, it goes into the daytime. So this
Gotcha.
all takes place in one night. And so as such, I knew that we're dealing with a dark palette, but the colors are going to have to be super important. And the
Yeah.
colors are going to have to play a part within the story. And he certainly accomplished that. Certainly accomplished
Yeah,
that.
like seriously, like this is impressive. The use of shadows, the use of faded colors,
Yes.
and the graffiti style that you were able to implement from your own
Yes. Correct.
lifestyle and work blends so well
Sure.
with the cyber futurism esque version of
That's
your
it.
character.
That's
It
it.
really, really works well.
Appreciate it, man.
I'm a
Really
hard
do.
man to impress, Eddie.
Yes.
I'll tell you. But you guys have really put together something really, really cool there. Um, and I look forward to this. I look forward
Sure.
to all the stuff that you guys are doing, because I am thoroughly impressed. That is really cool. So
Thanks, Dre.
here's my question, Eddie.
Sure.
Here's the real kicker.
Okay.
How far are we taking this run? Because we already know this is issue number 1 coming out.
Right. Correct.
Most arcs are
Right.
usually 6 issues, unless you're a
Right. Correct.
psychopath like me and then do it
Correct.
for 8 because I'm
Right.
unwell. So
Right.
how
Right.
far, at least in this arc, let's not talk about
Right.
the whole series, but as far as
Right.
this arc is concerned, how far are we taking this?
I think it's going to fit nicely into 6, but I want to do 3. And I
Okay.
tell you why, because I do think that it really ends well on the third
Okay.
episode, right? And I really wanted to see what the crowd reaction would be. What kind of audience do I build? Is it something that would be in demand? Already, Dre, I tell you, I'm seeing some really positive things from not
Good.
only fellow
That's
people,
good.
podcasters, but people that I shared this with and people that know about the story, because it really is a great combination of artwork with story, but also the tempo of the story, I think is something that I'm really proud of. So yes, to answer your story, to answer your question, definitely 3 right away. I
Okay.
could see you going into 6, but let's just see what the crowd thinks.
Okay. Hey, and I like that. I like that. That's smart thinking. Don't be a
Sure.
moron like this guy. Don't be a moron.
Please.
So
No,
yeah.
your vision's clear though.
Yeah, I
Probably
mean,
have
but
a clear vision. So
but it's a little bit different because, like,
Right.
I had the idea for the arc back in whew, 15 years before I started writing it, so it's
Okay,
like,
wow.
you know, it was already set in stone that it was going to be 8.
Okay.
But then again, I evolved as a writer in between that time period, and when I actually started writing it, I'm like, this might be too long.
Yeah.
but at the end of it all, it came through. The 8 issues went very well. I released a graphic novel this year. It
Sure.
went
Yep.
very, very well.
Yep.
So I
Yep.
can't be upset. But
No.
now
No.
I'm writing
No.
the second series,
Yes.
and I've completed the first draft of the first 3 issues,
Okay.
and
Cool.
I am scared because this joint might run longer than 8, and I'm trying to figure out a way to simplify it so I don't go crazy. So, but doing it this way, 3 issues run. How many pages for each one? Are you doing traditional 22 or?
That's 24.
Okay.
I think the next one would be more 28, and the last one could be anywhere between 28 to maybe even 32.
Okay.
We'll see.
Okay.
Yep.
And you know what? That's fair for
Yeah.
a 3 issue run. That's
Yeah.
fair. I like that. I like that a lot. That is really,
Sure.
really, really cool. So we got the Kickstarter coming up, Eddie. We got the Kickstarter
Yes.
coming up. And so that's in a little ways away, but we're gonna start
Sure.
pimping it out now. We're gonna start pimping
Appreciate
it out.
yes. Yes.
So everybody, the Kickstarter will be in the description section below. Definitely check out all of Eddie's work. I will leave a link to all his socials and all the great stuff in the description section below. Follow him and all that great stuff, because as you guys know that have been watching me for years, I'm a hard guy to impress. And this is an impressive run. And Eddie, this is your first comic series
Yes,
run, correct?
absolutely.
I'm
Yes.
flabbergasted. I'm
think-
flabbergasted to have a
Okay,
first
yeah.
series run and looks this great. Puts this guy to shame. It's tremendous. So
Thanks, Dre.
I
appreciate
really
it.
do appreciate it. I really appreciate it. So Eddie, is there anything you'd like to share with everybody? Any shout outs you'd like to make?
Yes, no, yes, if you can go to, literally did the Kickstarter preview page right before I got on. So I'm gonna see Dre, so I gotta make sure that this is done, you know. But I would like to tell people that they're gonna really enjoy the story. You know, End of Zed really it's about a story about a robot who crash lands in the South Bronx in 1982, and he's got no memory, he's badly damaged, and he has to navigate through probably one of the worst times, but also good times in the New York City history. And what do I mean by that? Well, 82 saw the birth of the crack epidemic.
Yes,
Super
it did.
But it also saw the positive impact of hip hop, which ushered in music, it ushered in art, it ushered in fashion that to this day is having a tremendous impact. So that's the backdrop. That's the backdrop of what Zed has to go through. He has to not only uncover his origin, but ultimately he's going to find out what his purpose is. And I think people are going to dig it. I really do.
I think a lot of people are going to dig it, and I agree with you 110% there, Eddie. My, oh my, oh my. So, Eddie, I want to thank you from my bottom of my cold, dark heart for coming onto the show and sharing this great new IP that I get to talk about.
Thank you.
So this is going to be
Appreciate
really
it.
fantastic, and I wish you all the success in the world, because this seems like it's going to be a really, really awesome ride.
Excellent, and thanks for opening your arms. We're part of the Anyone family. You know, it's amazing. You know, after meeting Hades and hearing of Laurie Cunningham, it's just amazing. A beautiful kind of, like, I hate to hopefully I'm using the right word here,
Go
but a
for it.
beautiful union in terms of a good representation of the independent culture, the
Absolutely.
independent comic culture,
Absolutely.
and both of them so fair. And then of course George Medina, who I'm branding.
I
here,
see
you
that.
know?
I see that.
Just solid people, talented people.
Oh,
So
yeah.
certainly,
Oh, yeah.
I certainly appreciate being with everyone here.
Oh yeah, it's an honor and a privilege
Yes.
to be a
Yes, sir.
part of this growing, beautiful, pretty much neighborhood, as it were.
Yes, there you go. That's it.
So
Well put.
it's really, really fantastic. So
Well put.
everybody, that there is Eddie Lema. Follow him on all his dope social media platforms that will be in the description section below, and check out the Kickstarter. It will also be there. And who am I? I'm Dre the Brute Daniels. Follow me on all my dope social media platforms as well. I'll put them right down on my face, They're not there yet, but there will be at DeBrute00 on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and if I feel like being silly, on TikTok. You all have been fan-freaking-tastic. This has been the Indie Corner. I'll catch you all next time.